Is 1 inch cutting diameter enough? Is it ethical? Is it really that lethal to be shooting animals with just 1 inch cut diameter broadheads? Well, interestingly enough, our best-selling broadheads among various models are always 1 inch models. But I get comments all the time about people thinking 1 inch is simply not enough. How is it that so many people think that 1 inch cut diameter broadheads are not enough to be lethal, yet they're our best-selling model? I'm gonna break the whole topic down and let's gain some clarity on exactly how lethal a 1 inch broadhead is and why. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna talk about our 4-blade broadheads, just for all things being equal. A 1 inch vented or solid, whatever, versus an XL vented or solid, same model, okay? Let's say it's all solid. Our XL broadheads are 1 3/16 cutting diameter. Our 1 inch are obviously 1 inch. Which one is gonna penetrate better? Well, we know that the 1 inch broadheads will penetrate better than the XLs because less surface area means less friction, means better penetration. It's that simple on the penetration front. And now a lot of people think, well, sure, the 1 inch penetrates better, but I'm gonna get a bigger hole out of the XL. While that is true, I want you to think of it this way. If you have a 1 inch head that goes 10 inches into a target versus a 1 3/16 head that goes 7 inches into a target, for example, which has done more cutting? Well, the 1 3/16 head has done slightly more cutting on the X and Y axis because of that extra 3/16 of an inch both ways, but it fell short on the Z-axis, on the distance. The 1 inch head will have done more cutting simply on a different axis. It went deeper, it cut more target, or in the case of hunting, flesh. So that's the really big point behind, do bigger cut diameter broadheads really do more cutting? The answer is sometimes. If you get a pass through with a 1 inch or an XL, yes, of course the XL has done more cutting, but not all of us are getting pass-throughs on every shot. And when you set yourself up for the greatest possible penetration, you can almost guarantee a little bit more cut flesh and cut tissue, blood vessels, everything that matters in drawing a good blood trail and killing an animal quickly by going with a smaller head that's gonna penetrate deeper. Now, like I say, if you have a pass-through on both and you have tons of power, you're hunting a small animal, the XL is a fantastic option. If I'm hunting Coues deer or pronghorn or black bears even, I always go with the XL because I shoot 70 pounds at 31 inches. I'm not worried about penetration on small animals, so I will go with that bigger head. But when I'm hunting a moose or an elk, or I've hunted muskox, anything really big, I want that smaller head because I want to maximize penetration and maximize my chance of getting a pass through. So is 1 inch enough to kill? 100%. Think about a bullet. A bullet is, that big. Of course, a 1 inch hole through an animal is enough to kill. You could shoot an animal with a field point, and if you hit it in the right spot, it will die. Now, I'm not condoning that. Please never go hunting with field points. But the point is that a 1 inch broadhead is absolutely enough to kill. Now, what are the other benefits of a 1 inch broadhead? Again, I'll talk about the fact that there's less surface area, but this time we'll talk about it in terms of flight. If your bow is flawless and your arrows are perfectly spine matched, any broadhead is gonna fly well. As long as it's a well-built broadhead and your arrows are perfect, any broadhead will fly like a field point. But many of us don't have setups that are that perfect, and we find some broadheads fly better out of our bow than others. That's the case for a lot of people. If that's the case for you, you're gonna find better success out of 1 inch broadheads or smaller broadheads in general versus larger fixed blade broadheads because there's less surface area, there's less of an impact that blade has on the front end of your arrow. They're gonna be more forgiving. So in that sense, shooting a 1 inch broadhead is actually more lethal than shooting a bigger one because you're increasing your accuracy. You're giving yourself a more fail-safe arrow. If you happen to flinch, if you happen to have bad hand form on a shot because you're nervous or have a little bit of buck fever, that 1 inch or any smaller broadhead is going to be more forgiving towards bad shots and suboptimal arrow setups than a bigger broadhead. So in that sense, a 1 inch is actually more lethal because it increases your accuracy. Now, I think a lot of people already understand this stuff and understand that accuracy is the most important thing. Who cares what's on the end of your arrow if you're not hitting exactly where you want to hit? There's a time and a place for both. I have a lot of power out of my bow. I know that my equipment is very well set up. I often take XLs and 1 inch broadheads on a hunt, because if I'm faced with a 20-yard broadside shot, I know that my odds of getting a pass through are far better than a 60-yard quartering towards shot, for example. So I know I can pull out that bigger head and have a phenomenal chance of getting a pass through right tucked behind that shoulder. Bit of a longer shot, maybe it's windy, maybe I know I'm gonna have to go through that thick front shoulder. I'm gonna pull out the smaller broadhead to maximize my chance of getting a pass through and increase penetration as much as possible. So there's a time and a place for small and large fixed blade broadheads, but it's simply not fair to say that 1 inch cut diameter is not enough to kill, or that it's not lethal, or that it's any less lethal than a bigger broadhead. In fact, I think it's the opposite in a lot of cases. Let me know your thoughts. Which broadhead do you shoot? Would you ever shoot a 1 inch broadhead? If you shoot a 1 inch broadhead, do you see any need to go bigger? I want to hear your thoughts. Tell me where you think I'm right and wrong. Thank you guys so much for watching.